Thinking about the Piratis, Expulsis, Piratis, Restituta, Commercia. Pirates expelled, commerce restored. Are they really gone? What do they do? Pause. Think about it with intentional thought and consider where we go from here. Stay tuned and hear Maurice Tynes' perspective on something to think about with Dale Happy Knows, and join our friends Islandese Realty and D1 Development and providing your comments and questions. And by all means, share, like, subscribe, and follow. And we'll be right back to be with you to ask all the questions that you have to ask.
Something to think about with Dale Happy Knows.
Welcome back to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knows. I am your host, and tonight we will have a lovely discussion with our esteemed Maurice Tynes, what I consider to be the consummate public authority in public service that we have in our land today. So we're talking about the Piratis and what it means to us. But from his perspective, we'll be talking about it from a position of governance and what is considered to be good governance and what it is that we actually have. So we will continue as we go forward, as we know that we are powered by Dom Dev Enterprises, a consultancy company that deals with leadership, strategic planning, transitional engineering, operational management, business optimization, and renewable energy. And so what we believe is that what we think, we become, what we radiate, we attract, and what we imagine, we can achieve. So let's change the narrative 242 as we move forward on this blessed Tuesday. So we welcome to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knows, the esteemed Maurice Tynes. You've seen him multiple times in the House of Assembly for a good number of years, moving up and down, and people think all he does is push paper. But that is far, 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 far from the truth. Maurice is a trained or academic public administrator. He's been through the public service for too long. Maurice will have to tell us how long that is, but he's been in immigration department, he's been in the cabinet office, he's been as the clerk of the Senate and the House of Assembly. And those who have been there from 1993 to 2017, almost under each prime minister that we've had. And actually, you said 93. So I mean, Penham was still there. No, Penham would have been out at that time. Yeah. Yes.
No.
Right. So Maurice, how long have you been in the public service? Because we know it's like 20 odd years as the chief clerk, but the public service.
When I came out of high school, when I finished my A levels at Government High, I went into the immigration department, and I was there for about 12 years, I think, something like that. You know, interrupted for studies.
Right.
And when I came, I was part of that time. Half of that time, I was stationed in Freeport, Grand Bahama.
Right.
And then I came back to New Providence in 1980, and I joined the cabinet office in May of 1980. And part of my at cabinet office, part of my responsibilities was to be the clerk of the Senate.
Okay.
The Senate did not have, nor does it still have, its full it's staffed by cabinet office, which ought not to be. That's one of the things that this speaker has been complaining about.
Okay.
It's still partly staffed by the executive branch.
Wow.
And then I went over to the House of Assembly full time in January of 1993.
So the House and the Senate is two separate offices, or they the same person is responsible for both?
Well, I was clerk of both. I was clerk of the Parliament.
Right.
I was clerk of the Parliament. I think the present clerk is also in the smaller territories in our region.
Right.
We find it more efficient to do the administration of both chambers under one office.
Right.
And so basically the House of Assembly has its own staff, but the two of those staff members would assist in the Senate when the Senate meets.
Right. Good. Awesome. And so we also know that you're very much a community man. I know you from Fox Hill, and going for Delhi and the like, but also at the festival. And I know you've been chair of that, and you have been there for, I guess it's about 10 years or more as the chair.
Well, no, I was part of the Fox Hill Festival ever since we combined the activities of Fox Hill Day and Emancipation Day to one in 1988. I was always a part of that, but I became chairman of the committee when Mr. Charles Johnson died. I think it was 2008 or 2009. Okay. I was the chairman up until 2018, I think, 2018.
Great. Okay.
So I am no longer the chairman of that festival.
Yes. I remember when you said you was bowing down. And you're also a veteran native culturist, as I call it, being a founder of the Mighty Congos, and I forgot the other group, the
Fun Time.
Right.
The Congos, the Fox Hill Congos, that is now. The Fox Hill Congos was established in 1985-86. And we stayed together until I think it was 1992, 93. And then it kind of disbanded. And then the former leader of the Congos, Mr. Leonard Bain. I don't know if you know Laddie Bain. He asked me. He told me that they were putting together a new group just for fun, not to be competitive. Right. And so we formed the Fun Time Jocano group. Even though we called it Fun Time, we had some serious music, and our costuming wasn't up to A class, but we concentrated in the music section, and we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, but I think Jocano is backwards right now, because really and truly to me, Jocano is music first, performance, and then costume. But when we look at the judging, it's all in the opposite direction. But we're not going to talk about that right here. We need to put down some serious stuff on the table today, because we have a youth out there, and even I would dare to say a lot of persons my age or even older than me who are lost. in terms of what our system of governance is in the Bahamas. We know what we practice, we know that very well, but we don't know what is really what should be happening in our Bahama land. But more importantly than all of that, before we get into that, you're a devout Christian, as I understand it from my own experience at St. Anne's and the like. You're a good spiritual man, a family man. You've much engaged in the church during your career and growing up and coming up. And you hold a number of offices in the church, all the way up to vestry and the like. So my question to you is, how, with all of these things and the responsibility of being where you were, immigration, the cabinet office, the clerk of parliament, and parliament is the two houses, the upper and the lower house, how do you find time and have such a lovely family and the like? You still there? Look at you frozen. Well, Maurice's family. You can hear me?
You can hear me?
I can hear you now. Yes, you were frozen.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, you were frozen. Go ahead. You can respond.
Oh yeah, I was saying that time management is so very important in any endeavor that you do, and I just kind of compartmentalize all of my activities. So
Right.
so when I was in the community, I kept that kind of sacred, and when I was in church, of course, that was my my number one interest, and
Right.
and so it's just I think it's just a matter of time management of your time. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I know you to be a man of meaning and identity in your words. You're not one to be ranting and raving and carrying on with a lot of stuff. And I know you're not careless with your words. So what drives your ultimate persona that where you could be so disciplined in the way you manage your time and manage your words and manage you Inc. Maurice Tynes, the man who everybody respects. When they hear your name, they shudder in anticipation of something great coming from you. How do you address that? Well, you think you froze again? Count to two and see if it will unfreeze. But as we know, Maurice, as we mentioned here, is involved in a number of these things, and now he's more on the relaxing side. Go ahead, you back? Is more on the relaxing side of things, and he's been able to enjoy his family. Most of them have grown up, and now he's on the next tier, going down to grandchildren and great grands probably soon. But we know that is something that has made him very proud. But I think he is greatly proud of his accomplishments and his contribution in Parliament and the civil service as a whole. And so we hope that his internet is sorted out and stabilized a little bit. And anybody from the telephone companies that service him, please give him that special line for tonight and make sure he gets the due that he deserves. We not too often get to speak with the meccas of our society in this light. And so before, in this COVID environment and the like, and all these things that is happening out of the way in society, we need to be able to give them their voice and hear what they have to say moving forward. And so, excuse me. So as we wait for Maurice to come back, we know that we see him in the House of Assembly or we saw him in the House of Assembly. And you would see when the speaker says something, and then they say to be tabled on the table of the House, and then you see the gentleman get up and he walks from his seat to another place where the member of parliament is speaking. Then he goes and grabs the papers and puts them in the appropriate place, and we call that tabling, and backward and forward. And we seem to think that that's all the clerk does. And with the name clerk, the clerk also would give the impression that these are lowly defined jobs which has no significance and importance. But we know far from the truth, because there's a lot of work in the background that has to happen with the job of the chief clerk of Parliament. So Maurice, are you back? I think it's frozen again. So go ahead. Gotcha.
Okay, happy. I was
You're going sideways again. So, as I was saying, you know, a lot of these jobs in the civil servants, we always talk about the civil servant, and the public always talks about them in a negative way, in some way. But I think part of the problem is that we really don't understand what civil servants do, or what their roles and responsibilities require them to do, and the amount of work that they do in the background to prepare. We tend to focus on the bad apples and then say, oh, that's everybody in the civil servant does that. Whether in the police force, or whether they're in the defense force, or whether in the public service, the civil servant, the public service, like all of those, we tend to give bad names to, because we don't really understand or know. And unless we have a direct relationship with persons like Maurice Tynes or somebody else who's working in the operations, then we really learn what it is that they do. Partly because we don't have a system where we teach what people are doing in government. And then we get to the point where all we're hearing is what is on the news or in the media. Most of the time, that is only the political arm, the policymakers. And so, you know, they're always in election mode, and so they will tell us what we want to hear and how we want to hear it, so that we could be happy with them to want to vote them back in. So Maurice, we was just touching on the civil service whilst you were struggling to get back online and talking about how there's a lot of work in the background and so forth. And so I wanted you to touch on, as we go through this now, and put some context to your position. But before we get to your personal position, not your personal, but the position that you held as clerk, chief clerk of the Parliament, then let's walk down what our system of governance is, right? We see on TV, like I mentioned, snippets of the office, but let's define what our system of governance is. We acknowledge that we agree that we come back to correct what we need, and we know that we have the Westminster system of governance, right? And the Constitution is our supreme law. So I want you to keep me honest now as I run down these things, so that we could go from where we start, which is the foundation is our Constitution of the Bahamas, down to the point where we get to your office and the like. So if we go ahead.
Okay, in 1973, when we gained our independence, we became an independent country under the framers of the Constitution at that time, and the government at the time. They chose to retain the Westminster style model government, and they also decided to stay in the Commonwealth. That's what as our name implies. We are the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, which means we are part of the Commonwealth of countries in the British system.
So that's
that's
by choice.
By choice, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the government decided to retain the same system, which I thought was a good decision.
Mm-hmm.
Since we stayed in the Commonwealth and retained the British monarchy as our head of state.
Now, before you say that, though, we retain the British monarchy, or we retain somebody to act on our behalf? As a sovereign country, our own queen of England.
Yeah, we are a monarchical democracy, which means we are a sovereign country, but we have the British monarchy as our head of state, and the governor general, who represents the now queen, he is the head of state in her standing in her place.
Right.
So some other countries like Guyana and Trinidad have gone the other step and have become Republican countries, with their own president as the head of state. Now, I think it's time for the Bahamas to make that step also. One of the things that agitate me is that all our judges, all our cabinet ministers, all our parliamentarians, all of the senior public servants, when they take their oath of office,
right?
They take the oath of allegiance, and they pledge allegiance to Her Majesty the Queen, her heirs and successors.
Yeah, but that Majesty the Queen is Majesty the Queen of the Bahamas.
Yes, she is the Queen of the Bahamas. Yes.
Right. Not the Queen of England.
Right. Yeah. So I think I see where Barbados has decided to make that step now.
Right. Right.
And I think the Bahamas ought to make that step and moving to a republic. We retain the same system.
Yeah. We can get there, but let's just go down the ladder. So if we say that system, and we have the Constitution as our supreme, and then the Constitution spells out specifically the Queen of England, the Queen of the Bahamas. You have the Governor General, the Chief Justice, the Speaker of the House, Prime Minister, Leader of the Opposition, Senate, MPs, Cabinet, Commissioner of Police. All of those are spelled out as key positions in the Constitution, and there are some others.
Yes,
but they don't call Chief Clerk. Well, they call it Speaker, but they don't call the Chief Clerk. They don't go to the next level, right?
Okay.
A person.
The position is not Chief Clerk.
Okay, correct.
The office of Chief Clerk in our public service is almost like a mid manager or even a lower person, the office is the Clarke of the Parliament.
Clarke of the Parliament, right? Okay.
Yeah, and in the Constitution is in several places they refer to the Clarke of the Parliament, the Clarke. Some duties of the Clarke does. Yeah. So the Clarke really is a constitutional position, and it is a.
So use a big cheese. Oh boy, you're gonna froze again.
Senior is a senior officer in the public service. Now the office of the clerk to that of a permanent secretary.
Right. That's
the most senior office.
Right.
Yeah. So in over here, the office was the office was pegged at peculiar to the person, and so I think I left as a my position was next to permanent secretary,
right.
But we made recommendations several times to have the office upgraded to that of a permanent secretary.
Right, right. So in the permanent secretary bar or tier, as we would call it, we have the chief, as I understand it, of all of them would be the cabinet secretary.
Yes, the cabinet secretary.
And then you have permanent secretaries in various ministries. And so you will have the clerk of the house, which would be intended to be at the same tier, even though, like you mentioned, that it might have been below. So is there a counterpart in the judicial branch?
I really don't know what the clerk. There is the office of clerk of the Supreme Court, but I can't tell you what that is benchmarked with.
Fair enough, but I just wanted to know if it was like in each intended to be.
I think the responsibilities are probably similar. A lot of people. I think I heard you saying a lot of people already don't know what the real responsibility of the clerk of the house is. They see us walking around and doing this, but the clerk is there to give advice to the speaker and members of parliament on procedural matters.
Right.
Procedural matters. We don't get into making advice on political matters.
Right.
Unless the speaker asks you your advice privately,
Right.
But the office of clerk also is responsible for putting together the agenda for the house.
Okay.
The clerk has to sign all legislation passed in the house. And he has to make sure that it gets to the Senate. And after the Senate finishes with it, then they have to get the bills to the Governor General for the Governor General to sign.
Right. So if the Governor General does not sign or the clerk does not sign, then those bills don't go anywhere.
Exactly.
They can't go anywhere.
They lay in abeyance until they are signed.
They lay in the red?
Abeyance.
Abeyance? Abeyance.
Yeah,
okay.
But that would never hardly ever happen. The clerk signs automatically once he checks the bills and makes sure it's the right bill and it's everything in it is correct. And then I think there was one occasion we took the bills to a Governor General, and he being a lawyer, he noticed that there were some things that ought not to be, and then so he asked us to go back and have it corrected.
Right.
We did, and then he signed them. So you'll hardly have a Governor General not signing bills either.
Right.
That's part of his functions.
Right, and I want to touch on that too, right? Because I mean, there's this myth. No, I was taught it was a myth that the Governor General is just ceremonial and they have no power itself. But the Constitution actually speaks to where they have power, and they might have others. So, what would you say to that? To people who say that they are purely a rubber stamp scenario?
No, most of the Governor General's functions are done on the advice of the cabinet or the advice of the Prime Minister, along with the leader of the opposition. But there are some functions that he is responsible for on his own. He doesn't have to. He can just do it. One of those things is the appointment of the leader of the opposition.
Okay.
If you read how it's worded in the Constitution, he does it he appoints a person on his discretion,
right,
who he thinks will command the majority of persons who are against the government.
Right.
The leader of the opposition, unlike the prime minister has to be the leader of a political party.
Well, it's two parts to it. So, I mean, there's discussion as to if that is not clear, that the person who is the leader of the party has the support, then the Governor General, according to the Constitution, on his discretion, as you mentioned just now, can appoint somebody else. Is that correct or not?
No, he would normally what he do? He will send the parties back and ask them to get it straightened out, and then come back to him. But he does have the discretion and saying, and deciding that. But the Governor General has some real powers if you really look into the Constitution.
Yeah, but don't leave that one with the Prime Minister yet, though. Because I mean, it's not a personal issue or anything like that. We're talking about what our laws say and what is our identity. So that section, I can't remember if it's 73 or whatever, has two parts. One which is the first A and one is B, and it says. Sorry.
Yeah. Do you have it in front of you?
No, I don't. Unfortunately, in my haste to get where I am at, I left it right on the table. But in essence, basically what it says is that there's the leader of the party who has the command of, who has the support of the majority of persons in the House of Assembly will be Prime Minister. And then the other part, it says, or in essence, if that don't happen, if there's no person who has that actual clear-cut support, then the Governor General can appoint somebody, provided that they're willing to serve as a person.
So the question was, the question was posed to me earlier this week, or end of last week. What happens if the leader of the party loses his seat?
Right.
But his party gains the majority of the seat in the House. What happens under that scenario?
Right.
And
but we had that.
Yeah. Well, when?
Well, didn't we have
Tommy Ted Wesley?
Right. Yes. Wasn't he appointed leader of the party, or was that just a sham?
No. He at first. I think what happened was at the end of the election. Or before the election, he was elected as leader designate of his party.
Okay. Oh, that's the worst thing.
And the question was, who would, if they had won that if they had won that general election in, I think it was 212 or 202. Maybe
207.
But no, 212. I think it was 212.
Okay.
Who would have been the prime minister? Because you had a leader of the party in place, but you had an elected leader designate.
Right.
So who would have become the prime minister if they had won the election?
All right, but I mean, I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of party politics and the like. We're trying to put on the table what our people not necessarily are aware of, right? And so time is flying, so we need to come. So we have the Queen who talks about my government, and then we have the legislation, the upper house and the lower house, and the two of those together. The upper house is Senate, and the lower house is the House of Assembly, and the two of them together becomes Parliament, of which you are the clerk of Parliament, I mean the clerk of both, and the like. Yes. And so we have a speaker who, in my mindset, is the prime minister, who we all know is the prime minister of the executive body, the executive branch of government. We have the three branches of government. Then you have the legislation, which is the House of Parliament, which has that's the second branch or another branch, and that has a senator, has a speaker in the lower house, and it has a president in the upper house. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right.
You're correct.
And so those persons, in their own respective sovereign branches of government, would be. Let me say it this way. They're sovereign, so that means that they should not be taking instructions from anybody from the outside. Is that correct?
Not quite. The principle of separation of powers means that you have three separate branches of government.
Right.
Neither one can dictate to the other.
Right.
But you know, in our Westminster system, the executive branch must be a part of the parliament. To be a cabinet minister, you either have to be an elected member or a senator.
Right.
And so, with all of the parliaments in the Westminster system have the problems with this. The executive branch, they make the policy at the cabinet level.
Yeah.
If that policy is to be turned into legislation, then they come to Parliament, and then they steer that policy through Parliament as legislation.
Yeah, but in the legislature, then the prime minister is not the one under control of whether it goes forward or not. The speaker has you say what the speaker's responsibility. I don't want to bias with.
The speaker has three main functions.
Okay.
He is the presiding officer, and that's the function that most people know him as.
Right.
And then he also is the person who he demands from the Governor General at the opening of Parliament the privileges of members of the Parliament and of members of the Parliament, so they could be unfettered in their work in Parliament.
Right.
And then also the Speaker is also the spokesperson for the House in his dealings with other institutions,
right?
Okay, and other parliaments. So those are the three main. But you want to concentrate on his as presiding officer, and in that he directs the work of the Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
But the government, the cabinet ministers, House leader, they actually manage the business of the House. So they set the priorities for the House,
right?
And all the scheduling of House meetings, they do that,
right?
But once the meeting starts, the Speaker is in control of the meeting,
right? Right. And so the other part to that is this, and why I say, but in the House of Assembly, those MPs, is it correct to refer to any of them as a cabinet minister post, or is it just refer to them as the member from what constituency? Now, if they're speaking on behalf of the minister, what's the protocol for that? Basically, is what I'm asking.
The protocol is that you don't call members by name,
right?
You call them honorable members. You just say honorable member or the honorable member for such and such constituency. While in the House, they are not. They don't. Unless they're speaking. Unless they're up on their feet and they're speaking on behalf of their ministry,
Right.
They are seen as ordinary members of parliament.
Right.
So the speaker would say that if the prime minister indicates that he wants to speak, the speaker would say, the chair recognizes the honorable member for whatever his constituency is, and then that gives the prime minister the right to get up and speak.
But
that all is done because members, we call them honorable, but they are assumed to be honorable.
Yeah, we can get to that. No, we can get to that, but you can finish that thought which you were saying just now.
Yeah. So the speaker calls on members to get up to speak. The speaker also has a lot of options to keep order in the house. The rules give him a lot of leeway to keep order in the house.
Great. All right. I think that's a good place for us to take a little short break, and we can come right back after that and try it. Maurice, I see we need 2 shows if we really want to go through this in proper sense.
Yes.
But
yes.
But let's just take this little short break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Welcome back to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. We're here this evening speaking with Maurice Tynes, the Clerk of Parliament. I call it Emeritus. He has so much on his shoulders that he has paved the way for everybody else that I put that title on him. Whether that's appropriate or not, that's what I call him. So Maurice, as we were talking, let's just tidy up a little thing here now. So when it comes down to the Clerk of Parliament, I consider that to be somewhat the wingman for the Speaker. Would that be considered a good analogy?
Yes, I guess so, because it's the clerk who has to, especially over these land, in our West. Let me say this. I don't think this is political. In the Westminster system, the office of Speaker should be a position, office that you grow into.
Right.
So in the big parliament, you'll never see a first time parliament. The first time you elected to parliament, you don't become speaker. You be in the background and you learn, or you might even be the deputy speaker, and so you learn. And so the clerk is the one who has to facilitate the training of the speaker.
Right.
First of all, he has to know what to say in parliament. That's the first thing he has to learn. and then he has to familiarize himself with the rules. The rules, even though the clerk is the person there who has the most knowledge of the rules.
Right.
And so the speaker depends on the clerk to help him out if there becomes an issue in the house that he can't resolve on top of his head.
Right.
The speaker could always call a 5-minute suspension, carry the clerk with him,
right,
and they hammer it. They look through the rules and any other source that you want to find out what the rules say and what the rules are, how the rules ought to be interpreted.
Right.
So the clerk has a very big responsibility. You know, the clerk in our system, the most likely the clerk has to sit in the House and the Senate.
Right.
And if the two of them meet the same time on the same date, then he has to rely on other staff members. What I used to do if they came to that, I preferred being in the Senate, so I would go to the Senate. I had an experienced deputy at the time, Mr. Leon Rami. You know Lee. Lee was play ball. Yeah, Lee was there as my assistant, and Lee would run the house. And if he has any issues that come up, he would call me over. Ask center boy to call me. Right. That's how we operated, and I think pretty much that's how we're operating now. But I think the government has to. The speaker was quite right in some of his demands. I made the point that I thought he said it at the wrong place. It ought not to have been. You don't publicly scold the government like that.
Right.
But some of the demands that he's been requesting, I think, and one of those was a staff that's separated from the public service.
Right.
And that would be controlled. That would be controlled by the House and the Senate themselves. They would have a committee, probably with the Speaker, the President of the Senate, the government leader in the House, the government leader in the Senate. That committee with the clerk, and they would then be responsible for recruiting staff, training staff,
right,
and then punishing staff if they go. Pardon?
That staff include the speaker?
That's one of the things that training of the speaker?
Yes.
No, training of the staff, I meant training of the staff.
Yeah, I'm asking you, in that staff, even though the speaker is not his staff, does he also have because you say when the speakers come, a lot of times they're new and they're not familiar, and so they have to learn. So who is it who's teaching them? Is that the clerk? The clerk. Right.
Yeah, the clerk does that, but so he does it private. He does that privately.
Yes. So we're not talking about the 5-minute job.
No.
For them to,
you have to go through the rule book with him. Right. And first of all, there's a section there on debates. So what happens? What you could do in debates, what you can't do in debates. And right. he has to learn. He has to learn that, and then he has to familiarize himself with how he keeps order in the house.
Right.
And that's a process. So I think the speaker coming in, being a lawyer, the curve wasn't as large for him because he would have come in with some knowledge of the Westminster system and the parliamentary system. And right. So it wasn't so. But that doesn't stop. That shouldn't preclude him from trying to get as much knowledge as he can.
Right. So is it safe to say then, based on what you're saying and the amount of preparation that the clerk of the parliament has to do, the hours that y'all spend making sure you're on top of everything because it's y'all who guiding everybody else as the fixture. Politicians come and go, but the clerks stay. You, like you said, you were there 20 odd years, and the like, and public servants, public service, what's the name? The PSS. Those are statutory fixed positions almost, where people do that type of work. So would it be safe to say then that y'all are the Woods Rogerses of
No. Woods Rogers was governor. We can't be him.
No. But wasn't he the one who expelled the pirates?
Well, yeah. Well, he did that. He did that before he became governor. He did that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that was a separate.
Y'all make sure.
Was a separate. Yeah. He had a separate commission from the king. But no, but I don't know. I don't know if the pirates have been expelled yet.
That's a different story. I'm asking you whether or not that's part of your role to make sure that no piracy and no skullduggery or no misuse of the procedures and policies, not policies, you know what I mean, of the, what you call the things, the responsibilities and obligations. The protocols and stuff of the parliament is for you all to do and make sure nobody abuses it.
Yeah. One other thing that we do, Brother Knowles, is after the general elections, between the results of the general elections and the opening of Parliament, we would try to have a 1 or 2 day seminar with all the elected members,
right?
And so, and we would go through the procedures with them like that,
right?
We let them know what how to start a piece of legislation. How do you move resolutions? How do you move requests for select committees? We would also let them know what their remuneration, their pay, because there's several things that the parliamentarians get. Like parliamentary pension.
Right.
We have to let them know that, and there are booklets. There are booklets on these.
Right.
And these are part of legislation. So we at the beginning at that seminar, we would ensure that each member gets a copy of the Constitution, a copy of the rules of the House,
right,
a copy of the Parliamentary Pensions Act, a copy of the Constituency Allowance Act, everything that they are entitled to. We try to let them know at that time. And so that is one way of cutting down on all of the mischief and anything else, but if we see somebody doing the wrong thing, we would try to go to them privately and let them know, that what you're doing ain't right. Don't do that. If they don't listen to us, then we let the speaker know. Let the speaker deal with them.
Right. So there's one thing that seems to annoy the Bahamian people as a whole on a consistent basis, and it's always annoyed me. What's the protocol, the rules say about all this heckling and banging on the table and make all of that? That to me, if we want to be a high performance organization, that we really should be operating from a position of getting things done, not necessarily trying to be disruptive to each other. What's the protocol on that?
Okay. What the rules say is that when a member gets up to speak, he is not to be interrupted.
Wow.
There are a few things the member could get up and interrupt him on, and one of those things is a point of order or point of clarification. Other than that, they're not supposed to be shouting across the floor and calling each other this and that really should not happen. And I think the acoustics in the House of Assembly is such that when 2 or 3 people are, they might be speaking kind of low,
Right.
but the sound is carried.
Yeah.
Carried. Yeah. And so I don't think sometimes they don't realize that their voices sometimes be carried.
Right.
But they are members supposed to be able to get up and speak without being interrupted. That is what should happen.
Right. And that's a good thing if it will happen, because that is one area of our system that is, to me, is totally bastardized, that we don't follow that rule.
But at the same time, it's supposed to be a debating chamber.
I agree.
One side proposes and the other side opposes. And whenever you have that situation, you're going to have spirited disagreements.
Right. Well, Maurice, I only get to the half of where I had prepared for the show, and we are already at the 55-minute mark. So that means that you're gonna have to come back. Because
I'll be happy to come back. I'll be happy to come back.
Yes, very much so. So for this session, then, based on what we have touched on and the like, and the next thing I wanted us to touch on would be in terms of accountability. People always say we have no accountability and we have all these things. We could talk about those in the next show. But what would you want to say to the wider audience out there in terms of anything that we discuss, or that might be something that you think is compelling that needs to be said to help us understand?
One of my pet peeves is the attitude I think our politicians have toward the institution of Parliament as an institution. That is clearly visible when you look at the building that we are still meeting in.
Okay.
The building was built in 1805, 1806, which is over 200 years. It was built for a staff of one or two persons.
Wow.
It was built when there were when vehicles and parking was not an issue.
Right.
When they built it, women were not allowed, were not permitted to run and be elected. So no real provision was made for females.
Right.
The building was built at a time when disabled people were taken into consideration.
Right.
So if you are in a wheelchair, you are still unable to go into the chamber unless somebody or a couple of people lift you there.
Right.
But what we have been doing, we have cameras downstairs in the committee rooms where they can sit and watch once the members are not busy in there. And so what I say all that to say is I think we have to demand, the Bahamian public should demand a parliamentary complex that is appropriate for a 21st century Bahamas.
Right.
A place where you can have proper all the IT work and all that. So I don't think it's not a priority for them.
Right.
Even though I've been railing on this from I got there, it doesn't seem to be. I see, and the strange thing is the Parliament is one branch of government.
Right.
They have no problem in building offices for the executive branch, ministry of this or the ministry that they build. They have no problem doing new buildings for the judiciary, the third branch of government.
Right.
It's only the Parliament that they don't seem to have any interest in making sure that they enhancing the building.
Right, but they only see it as them being there for 2 seconds, and it's not a continuous thing, right?
Yeah, so, they see it. That's how they view it.
Right. So if we look at that, then and we moving forward with transformational activities, then besides hiring me to do it, that whole space of the Parliament, upper and lower house, and then where the courts are, would retrofitting all of that for Parliament be appropriate, and move the courts from that area altogether, and just have that whole one big Parliament Square? The road is named Parliament Street.
No, yeah, that is true. I was hoping that they would use the old post office building on top of the hill there,
right?
East Hill Street, and they could have refitted that for a parliamentary complex.
Right.
It has the space there. There's lots of parking in the back. It can do proper security. You could have done a lot of stuff with it. But I see they have assigned that to some other.
Yeah, well, we will see, because I don't know if anybody came to us and asked us for that, right? But that's a different issue. So, Maurice, it's been lovely having this conversation, and I hope our audience was able to find value in what has been put on the table so far. And I'm sure in the second half, where they see what I had planned, they will come back to listen to the second half when we come back for the next show, when you come back on. But I'd like to thank you kindly for taking time out of your busy evening. I'm sure you could have been doing multiple thousand other things than the talking with me under the tree. But I don't even know we can sit under the tree no more these days, but that's a different.
The almond tree?
Yeah.
Yeah, they. First of all, they don't encourage you to come.
Right.
Like that too much now. I've been to church, I think, once or twice since March of last year.
Right. Yeah. But that's what we learn as a community and as a village, and so we have to not become prisoners to our own doings or whatever.
Exactly. Yes, I agree with that.
Yes, and I also like to thank all of the viewers out there from across the world. We get viewers in Dubai and in Europe and the like. So we'd like to thank you all for joining us in this discussion. We will have a part 2. Maurice has already agreed to it. We just got to schedule it, make sure it aligns with his time and the like. And so as we go this evening, we want you to pause, think about it intentionally, and consider where we go from here. We talked a lot of stuff today. I hope you have a lot of nuggets to fuel some new ideas in your head as to what we should be doing or what should be happening in Parliament and what should not be happening. Maybe that's where the pirates are. Who knows? But what we know, the system itself might be a pirate. We need to modify that.
Yes.
One for the Republic to do. I think that would just be another mess. I think we have to design something for us that matches and does what we need to be done so that we could become more efficient as a country. Right?
Exactly.
And so as we go, Maurice, we ask everybody to listen and share these nuggets and put it in your schools, because Maurice is a we boost up Michael Jordan and LeBron James and the rest of them. Maurice Tynes those in the same brackets, They just people, they don't have the money that Jordan knows have, but they create things for our country than what those sports icons and the like do. And so we want you to like, share, and follow, and then stay safe. And by all means, follow the protocols for COVID. We don't want to have any of these things, and let's have a social and amicable society where we don't have police brutality and the rest and all those things that's happening. So thank you, Maurice, and you enjoy. And your daughters send their love, and I'm sure you will call when the birthday party comes up shortly. Okay.
Oh, I think they probably gonna have that for me. That could be a virtual birthday party, I guess.
Yeah, she said that. She said, yeah, we can take care of that. Don't worry about that. No.
Okay, all right.
All right. So thanks a lot, and y'all enjoy and good evening.